Biden signs climate and tax bill into law as other goals remain. Climate change is making hundreds of diseases much worse. Starbucks demands halt to union elections. University plans to rebury skulls of 13 Black Philadelphians. U.S. verbally agrees to 2 Iranian demands on nuclear deal, says Tehran. Turkish cardiologists apply innovative method to treat patient with irregular heartbeat. From Washington, D.C., this is the Muslim News on Muslim Network TV. Assalamu alaikum, I'm Hena Zuberi. Our top story tonight. On Tuesday, economic and climate justice groups applauded as President Joe Biden signed into law the Inflation Reduction Act. Advocates hailed the $740 billion investment in climate action, corporate tax reform, and healthcare as landmark legislation. They also pledged to continue working to secure more ambitious reforms. The law includes a $370 billion investment to expand renewable energy infrastructure, caps prescription drug costs for senior citizens, and raises taxes on corporations. The legislation was signed more than a year after Biden's original proposal for the Build Back Better Act. Representative Cori Bush, a Missouri Democrat, said the IRA is a reminder that we must never stop fighting to address the climate crisis because our planet and future is at stake. Climate change has impacted more than 200 infectious diseases and worsened dozens of non-transmissible conditions, such as poisonous snake bites, according to an analysis. Climate hazards bring people and disease-causing organisms closer together, leading to a rise in cases. Global warming can also make some conditions more severe and affect how well people fight off infections. Most studies linking climate change and disease have focused on specific pathogens, transmission methods, or the effects of one type of extreme weather. Camilo Mora is a data scientist at the University of Hawaii at Manoa. He and his colleagues have scoured for evidence of how 10 climate change-induced hazards have affected all documented infectious diseases. That includes surging temperatures, sea level rises, and droughts, and infections spread or triggered by bacteria, viruses, animals, fungi, and plants. The study was published in Nature Climate Change earlier this month. Liz Cheney lost Tuesday's Republican primary, garnering only 37% of the vote. By comparison, she won the last primary with 73% of the vote. Cheney was the number 3 ranking House GOP leader on January 6th. She infuriated Republicans by voting to impeach former President Donald Trump and then joining the House committee investigating the January 6th Capitol riot. Cheney campaigned surrounded by U.S. Capitol police officers for her security. Instead of rallies, she relied on private events and television ads to reach voters. Cheney, in her concession speech, said, "All who fought in our nation's tragic civil war, including my own great-great-grandfathers, saved our union." On Monday, Starbucks management demanded a temporary suspension of all mail-in union elections at its U.S. stores. The alleged National Labor Relations Board personnel and union officials secretly colluded to influence the outcome of a contest at a shop in Overland Park. Starbucks is asking all elections be suspended nationwide. Starbucks Workers United, the campaign working to unionize Starbucks locations across the country, rejected the company's accusations. The group called it Starbucks' latest attempt to manipulate the legal process for their own means and prevent workers from exercising their fundamental right to organize. Starbucks is facing hundreds of unfair labor practice charges stemming from its campaign to crush worker organizing. The company alleges in a 16-page letter that a whistleblower from the labor board approached the company. It claims that person giving Starbucks evidence of a concerted effort to tip scales in voting to favor the union in a Kansas City area store election. The skulls of 13 Black Philadelphians on display in a University of Pennsylvania classroom may be reburied this fall in a historic Black cemetery outside Philadelphia. That's if a court approves the burial. According to CNN, the classroom where introductory and advanced anthropology classes were taught featured hundreds of skulls. They had been on display there for nearly 6 years as part of the Morton Cranial Collection stored at the Penn Museum since 1966. At least 13 of the skulls belonging to Black people will be reburied. The collection was named for 19th century physician Samuel George Morton, a leader in the largely debunked field of craniology. This racist field of science used the skulls of various races to assign them inferiority to white people. Hindu extremists attacked American Indian human rights activists in Anaheim, California on August 15th. Human rights activists were raising awareness about the persecution of Muslims and Dalits in India. No arrests have been made so far. RSS, the Hindu paramilitary, operates 60-plus branches in the USA. One of its members killed Gandhi. According to Tehran, the U.S. government has agreed to 2 Iranian demands on the nuclear deal. Details after the break. Stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Open up your eyes.
Assalamu alaikum everyone, it's your brother Zain Bika from South Africa. One of the first educational programs ever produced for Muslim children was the ever popular Adam's World series. The colorful and comical Muslim puppets stole the heart of a generation. Sound Vision will be releasing brand new episodes of Adam's World with the launch of a Adam's World app. Subscribers will enjoy new Adam's World episodes as they are released, as well as all the classic episodes of Adam's World. So visit adamsworldapp.com now to learn more, subscribe, and enjoy new adventures of Adam and his friends. And let's keep helping tomorrow's Muslims today. Assalamu alaikum.
It's Adam's World. Believe me, there's a lot to see. Bismillah. Let's explore.
To stop this genocide, we need your help.
Welcome back. On Monday, Iran said the U.S. government verbally agreed to 2 Iranian demands for reviving the 2015 nuclear agreement. Foreign Minister Hossein Amir Abdollahian said the U.S. needs to adopt a realistic approach about guarantees. The top diplomat said Tehran will send its responses to the European Union's draft text to save the 2015 nuclear deal by Monday midnight. That was signed by Iran, the US, China, Russia, France, the UK, Germany, and the EU 7 years ago. But under former President Donald Trump's administration, the United States withdrew from the agreement in 2018. Under the deal, Tehran committed to limiting its nuclear activity to civilian purposes. In return, world powers agreed to drop economic sanctions against Iran. On Saturday, nearly 150,000 workers at more than 200 Bangladeshi tea plantations went on strike. This was to demand a 150% increase to their $1-a-day wages. Researchers say Bangladesh's wages are among the lowest in the world. Most tea workers in the country are descendants of laborers brought to the plantations by colonial-era British owners. The minimum wage for a tea plantation worker there is 120 taka a day, about $1.25, or just over $1 on the free market. One worker said it's barely enough to buy food, let alone other necessities, such as nutrition, medication, or children's education. Unions are demanding an increase to 300 taka a day, with increasing inflation and the currency depreciating. An Iraqi actress whose photo was used by The Economist to illustrate an article about obesity in the Arab world is suing the newspaper for violating her privacy. This was after The Economist used Inas Talib's photo without her permission in an article about obesity according to Gender in the Arab world. The 42-year-old told Anadolu agency the magazine has insulted all Arab women by using her photo in an article about being overweight. The photo of hers was taken 9 months ago at the Babylon International Festival in Iraq. A National Health Service doctor has accused Disneyland Paris employees of wrecking the family's vacation by refusing to serve them halal meals. Dr. Sayed Asim Ali Mukhtar, his wife Elena Arsine, their 16-year-old daughter Rina, and 12-year-old son Hasnain said the dishes arrived at the table frozen. Park staff also told them to heat up the food themselves. The family traveled to the tourist attraction for a much-needed break after Mukhtar spent 2 years working on the COVID-19 pandemic front lines. They made reservations for meals each of the 4 evenings they were at the park. Disneyland Paris's website reads it offers vegetarian, kosher, and halal options. A court in Bosnia and Herzegovina sentenced a former Bosnian Serb police officer to 20 years in prison for crimes against Bosnian Muslim civilians during the war in 1990s. Dusan Kulbrick was accused of participating in the killing of 51 civilians from Prijedor in the summer of 1992. Kulbrick has a right to appeal the verdict. In March 1992, when the war in Bosnia and Herzegovina had just begun, over 1,700 Serbs from 13 police stations in Prijedor were armed in about a month. On April 29th, Serbian troops seized the city, whose major population at the time was Bosnian Muslim. During the attack and the massacre in and around Prijedor, over 3,000 civilians were killed, including more than 100 children. Several Black Muslim teenagers are being hailed as heroes after running into a burning building to rescue residents in East London last week. The fire broke out at a tower block in Bethnal Green last Thursday. Zakaria Digal was with his friends Zakaria, Ibrahim, and Saeed on their way to the Young Black Men Project Hub nearby. The trio saw the fire and immediately began knocking on the doors of the flats, urging residents to evacuate the building, The Independent reports. As his friends were rescuing people, Digal rushed to carry a blind and deaf man who was on the 4th floor. Abdi Hassan of the Young Black Men Project said he was so proud of the trio and praised them for their heroic actions. A team of doctors in Turkey applied an innovative method to treat a middle-aged patient with irregular heartbeat. The patient, Ercüment Taskiran, suffered from frequent feelings of exhaustion, faintness, and oversweating for over a decade as a result of his arrhythmia. The 41-year-old was taken to the Kocaeli Cardiology Hospital in Istanbul after passing out at his home. Taskiran was diagnosed with atrial tachycardia, a condition that can develop into heart failure if left untreated. Cardiologist Abdulkadir Uslu and his team employed a method commonly used to treat arrhythmia known as cardiac ablation. After Taskiran made a full recovery, the treatment was presented to the scientific world in an article recently published in the peer-reviewed Journal of Electrocardiology. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so stay tuned and we'll be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour, walk a mile in my shoes, walk a mile in my shoes.
I am what hunger looks like in America.
I am an 8-year-old girl who's not excited for the last day of school. Because this may be the last time I'll have lunch. Till September.
I am a single father of 2
who works 3 part-time jobs, and that's still not enough to put food on the table.
I was created by artificial intelligence from faces of the 1 in 8 Americans who struggle with hunger.
Feeding America, 200 food banks strong.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
We are Justice for All. Headquartered in the heart of downtown Chicago, Justice for All is a global humanitarian initiative dedicated to raising awareness for human rights concerns impacting vulnerable minority groups. Our diverse team of staff and volunteers, led by Imam Malik Mujahid, work tirelessly to help Justice for All achieve their goals. We promote policies that protect religious freedom, address the root causes of mass displacement, and recognize the plight of refugees and forced migrants. Together, we can continue to stand up for justice. Justice for all.
Welcome back. A landmark case is being filed against Chinese officials for human rights atrocities against Uyghurs. To discuss this in detail, let's go to Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
Thank you, Hena. For the first time, a lawsuit has been filed for Uyghur people on the issue of genocide and crimes against humanity. And it has been done in Latin America, Argentina, where right now the leadership of UHRP is present. And with us is someone who runs quite a bit of international advocacy, Louisa Greve, and she's Director of International Advocacy for UHRP. Welcome to Muslim Network TV, Louisa.
Thank you so much. I'm very happy to be here.
Well, thank you. Tell me, what about this lawsuit? What is this lawsuit about in Argentina?
Well, usually atrocity crimes should be tried by a competent court that has jurisdiction over prosecuting cases of torture or disappearance. However, in the case of what's happening to the Uyghurs, the Muslim Uyghur people and other Turkic Muslims in China, obviously the courts of China cannot prosecute the torturers, the people who are separating the children, who are forcibly sterilizing the women. So the Uyghur groups have gone to the courts in Argentina, which has universal jurisdiction and is ready to receive cases wherever the perpetrators may be.
Well, they have initially taken a case on Rohingya genocide as well, which is moving pretty slowly. Do you think the Uyghur case is going to move forward on a faster pace, considering unlike Burma, China is a powerful country?
Unfortunately, it is true. We have to consider how powerful the perpetrator is. However, we have faith that the courts in Argentina are independent, that the prosecuting judge will undertake an investigation without fear of diplomatic pressure. And certainly my organization, the Uyghur Human Rights Project, as well as our sister organization, the World Uyghur Congress, stand ready to provide additional evidence. And we have full faith that the judge will proceed with an objective and open mind to investigate the case.
You know, the China, who has put about 1 to 3 million Uyghur people and other Turkic-speaking people, mostly Muslims, in the sort of a modern-day concentration camp using forced labor and all of those things. I mean, these are crimes which should be tried, as you mentioned, and you have filed your case. What about the United Nations institutions like the International Criminal Court and the International Court of Justice? Why UHRP is not approaching those courts?
I really welcome those suggestions. You know, it has been 4 years since the world heard very strong evidence of these atrocity crimes. The International Criminal Court has limited jurisdiction. Many governments have not acceded. And so, for example, China has not signed the treaty giving authority to this court to prosecute relevant crimes. And so it's impossible for this court to hear a case. And that is a matter of international politics. Now, the UN has a mandate, right? It was founded in 1948 in the wake of a genocide, the World War, and the terrible crimes to all the populations of everyone across Europe, and certainly the Nazi crimes. That was the hope of the United Nations, that the whole world would come together and uphold a single standard of human rights. However, the UN has been unbelievably slow. And in fact, there has been no official report of any UN treaty body or the Human Rights Council or the Global General Assembly, which is all the countries meeting once a year, and nor has the Security Council taken up the case of the Uyghur genocide. So it falls to the Office of the High Commissioner. We're expecting that report. I can mention it. And then we have UN special experts And there's some more developments there, and that may be something you want to talk about.
I mean, yesterday, a report has come out which quotes the US United Nations, a special rapporteur on modern slavery. They say that minorities in Xinjiang had been drafted into forced labor in agriculture and manufacturing that amounts to enslavement as a crime against humanity, unquote. So evidence keep coming in. So since it is coming from the United Nations, what United Nations mechanism are there to build on that particular report?
Yes, we're very, very pleased to see the UN expert on modern slavery come up with a very forthright report. And of course, as you say, the evidence is there. The issue is whether the UN structures take note of it. And here is where power politics do come into play, because the government of China has used a lot of diplomatic tools to try to pressure the bodies of the UN, and where they have a vote as a member state, to suppress the evidence and to make sure that no resolution would pass the Human Rights Council. In this case, the report is quite forthright, citing surveillance, threats to family members, threats of detention if you don't go to labor. What should be done? At a minimum, a resolution. Also, a commission of inquiry can be stood up, which has an independent mandate to issue a report and recommend justice, right? Accountability mechanisms. There is also, an office for the prevention of genocide. This is in New York, in the office of the Secretary General. This office has a mandate not to respond to genocides, but to prevent genocides. And yet, this body has been hampered because, according to their guidelines, they can only act on official documentation. So whether the UHRP or independent documenting groups, professors, all the international human rights groups have issued reports, but the Office of Genocide Prevention won't act. And so this shows you that it is why we need to go to independent bodies like the courts of Argentina to take action. But we do have hope that the UN bodies will take note of this new UN experts report and, in fact, issue a condemnation and urge governments to take action, not to be complicit in having these forced labor goods come into their countries.
Louisa, that's a major limitation, isn't it? That the official evidence, what is an official evidence? I mean, there are several countries who have considered it to be a genocide, including the United States. Official meaning the one who is committing the crime will present the evidence. That will never happen in case of any genocide in the world until the genocider is removed and some other government is in place and things of this nature. So in the absence of all of that, United Nations itself is an office, and their special rapporteur is reporting that. Isn't that official?
Absolutely. Yesterday's report issued by the UN Special Rapporteur on Modern Slavery is a very important piece of evidence. And in fact, I will note that other special rapporteurs have also examined evidence and issued official reports. In fact, several of them together, particularly on forced labor, this very issue last year, I believe it was 16 different special rapporteurs wrote a joint report, which shows the level of concern about this genocide. And the fact that forced labor is a state policy, right? We're not, it's something almost unimaginable for the 21st century. We know there were so many cases in the 20th century that this could be happening in the 21st century, and it's entering global supply chains. So there has been some official reporting on this, but it is, as you say, a huge frustration for Uyghurs and the other victims of China's genocidal crimes. We believe that the UN is so paralyzed in making a response.
Louisa, there are many victims of, the genocide of Uyghurs who are present in the United States. Is it United States one of the places where the universal jurisdiction law exists? Why you have not chosen to file a lawsuit here?
This is a question that we have turned to our lawyers. So we're so grateful to a lawyer named Michael Pollock, who works in the UK, and he's head of a wonderful group called Lawyers for Uyghur Rights, Lawyers for Uyghurs, and they did an examination. Where could they bring a case to a competent court that has the power to subpoena evidence, to subpoena witnesses, and to issue a judgment that would be executable by the law enforcement bodies of a state government. And so they chose Argentina as the country that has good experience, as you mentioned, investigating the cases and issuing judgments on an objective basis. And so they brought us there, and that's the place we're starting. And we have not had a lawyer in the U.S. come forward, but I would love to appeal to your audience. If you know lawyers who know how to bring this kind of case. Our very small NGO, we have a staff of 6 or 7 people, no lawyers on our staff. And so we are looking for help from the American community to help us with that kind of thing.
Well, thank you so much, Louisa Greve, for your time. Louisa Greve is Director, International Advocacy of Uyghur Human Rights Project based in Washington, D.C. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Malik.
Back to you, Hena.
Thank you so much, Imam Mujahid. That's all from our Washington studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube or Facebook. For more content, keep watching Muslim Network TV or visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.